Good day to you all, my friends. How's everybody doing today? Well, it's the morning time. It's a beautiful sunny day. I was out doing some gardening and trying to get some shit done in the yard. And I thought I'd come in and make a quick video. I wanted to make this last night. Totally random subject, I guess, but isn't that what I always do? What do you think of when you see this? Or perhaps this, right? This is maybe a better example. This is Corel or Corningware. Now, if you're not a person who cooks, you probably aren't aware of exactly what it is. But everyone's seen this pattern before. Especially people of Gen X and older who remember their parents, using these very pots with this cornflower pattern on them. And this pattern originally came out in the 1950s. 1953, I believe. And what I'm going to talk about here is how everything today is just made like shit. I mean, it's built what we call planned obsolescence. I've talked about it before, and it's pretty much pointless to even bring up because everybody is well aware that computers, that their cars, that everything is designed to break. And a lot of folks would say, well, parts are complicated, phones are complicated, cars are complicated, and of course things are going to break as we make new discoveries and try new things. Which is true to an extent. But when it comes to something like a dish, there's very little involved in it. This is probably a 1970s or 60s version of this pan. Now, you can go out and you can buy these today. They re-released them a few years back. I believe it's World Kitchen was the company that bought Corningware back in 1990 or sometime in the 90s. Now this is a weird story because most people could care less about plates and dishes, right? But the reason I'm using this as kind of my main point is because at the time this was made, the company was very excited about these. These are made out of pyroceram. Pyroceram meaning pyro fire, ceram as in ceramics. This was a material that was originally made for NASA's space shuttle. And this was the material that was used on the nose cone of space shuttle missions. And how excited were the scientists of the time to say, wow, we can apply this and put it into dishes and plates, and wow, we can make really durable things that will last families for generations. And they did. And that was the problem. These things last forever. And not only that, but if you look back to the ads in the 1960s, they marketed these by showing one of these pots right here, completely half frozen in a block of ice. And the other half, they had a giant torch that they were, flaming on it, to show that the whole point of these was they have amazing heat dispersion and resistance to stresses due to temperature changes. The idea with these pots was that you can mix up what you want in it. You can put it right on the stove. These are actually designed to, there's a little handle that goes on these and you can use them as cooking pots. I didn't even know that until recently. You can cook them on the stove, you can serve them on the table, and then throw them right in the freezer. Pull them right out of the freezer, stick them right in the oven, and they will not break. Now, I've spent a long time talking about the fact that these are wonderful dishes now. These are highly desirable for a lot of people. And if you look them up, no, they're not worth $10,000. You'll see these eBay ads with these things on there. When the company was sold, in the 90s to World Kitchen, they stopped making them out of pyroceram and started making them out of a ceramic lime type glass, which has half of the durability and does not have the same heat dispersion. And the question here is, the main point here is why? Well, they told us. They said why. They said it wasn't very cost effective, the profit margin wasn't good enough, and this is the kicker here, that unfortunately families would pass it down to their children and then down to their grandchildren, and because of that, nobody was buying new pots and pans and plates. And this isn't just these beautiful ceramic pots and pans and stuff, but I actually have a set that I got from my mom that she bought, I believe, in the early 80s from a traveling salesman who came to my parents' house and sold them these pans called Lustrecraft. Now, anybody who cooks a lot has probably heard of Lustrecraft. They were, through the 70s and 80s, they were kind of that, hey, buy these pots and pans, they'll last you forever. I'm still using those pans. I have gone through so many other sets of different types of pans that have come and gone over the years, but those Lustrecraft pans are still there. The lids still have the top. What is my point? My point is that everything is built like shit. There was a golden moment where we really took pride in what we did and what we made. And so people who are out there looking to find vintage gear often are doing it for the benefit of a higher quality item. A good example that I would use would be the stereos. I used to talk a lot about stereo equipment, and I was very obsessed with vintage stereos from the 1970s. And I have several, different Sansui and Pioneer models that I bought from Goodwill for $20. Those beautiful silver-faced multi-knobs. There was a period where they were not desired because everybody wanted the new digital ones, right? Then they came back into style, and here's the reason why. In the 1970s, they had the stereo wars, is basically what it was called. A lot of companies were vying for attention and trying to get a share of the market. Because of this, a lot of Japanese companies, like Sansui, they started manufacturing these really, really high-quality receivers and stereo equipment and making a very slim profit margin on them. Which means that even today, a receiver that sold for $500 in 1980 will go for $1,000 today, refurbished, because people want that quality. The sound of an old vintage system is amazing. These speakers, for example, came out in the 80s or mid-80s towards the kind of the end of the heyday, and they're just little Radio Shack realistic speakers. And these are actually called the Minimus. They're 7 watts, and they have a removable grill, a little 4-inch speaker, and a little dome tweeter. They just sound absolutely amazing for what they are, and they were like $30. And there was a point right after that where everything just went to crap. You go down and you'd have to spend 10 times that today to get a speaker that small that sounds that good. And another vintage thing, and I just want to go through these really quickly, that I've found is phenomenal are lenses. The glass that were used in old vintage camera lenses is just phenomenal. And since nobody's using them because they all have digital cameras and phones, then you can pick these up for $10, $20 or cheaper at Goodwill. And like this is just a Vivitar lens, telephoto lens that you buy an adapter for, and I use them on my camera, my mirrorless. But lenses were made just amazing. Today you pick up a lens that comes with the camera, and it's a piece of plastic. It's complete crap. I mean, even some of the better cameras really have crappy lenses. It's all about maximum profit and maximum return because people have to come back and keep buying new shit. And it's funny, even digital cameras today, people are always upgrading and replacing and replacing and upgrading. But I've still got my old Minolta camera that just shoots like the day it came out of the box, right? I'm assuming. But then there are other things which have improved, and I just definitely want to cover that. When it comes to, say, speakers, just because there's good sounding stereos from the 70s doesn't mean that speakers are going to be always great. They need to be reconed, they have wiring problems, the coils need to be replaced, and yeah, we've come a long way, but the problem is you have to spend 10 times more than you would have to get there. I guess that one example I wanted to make was this, because several years ago I thought mag lights actually go for quite a bit of money if you look online. The original mag lights are collector's items. And I found one at Goodwill and bought it, and I thought, okay, cool. I've got this big, long, cumbersome light that takes 4 C batteries, right? And on top of that, it has a regular bulb that's not even that bright, and the bulb can burn out and have to be replaced. Yeah. So today we've come a long way. I've got like this camera light that I use, and it's got adjustable lumens. You can change the temperature of it. You can change the lux of it. It's got a little digital readout on the back and everything. It takes a rechargeable battery. And yeah, we've come a long way with things like that. I guess my point of this is that there are some really high quality things that you can find at Goodwill or at yard sales, thrift stores, that people just constantly overlook. anybody who drinks coffee, who's had coffee mugs, is aware of chipping on your coffee mugs, right? For example. But then you find these old Pyrex ones from the 70s that are still in perfect shape, right? Well, wanted to make a final note on these plates here. I said that they had re-released them, and they did. They came out a few years back with a whole new set of them. The difference is that they're made out of stoneware. You can't use them in extreme temperatures. You can't use them on the stove top. The sides are all rough. And so this right here, space shuttle nose cone material, this is probably 50 years old. And it still works like the day that it was originally manufactured. And that to me just shows that in 50 years of advancing technology and new discoveries, most of the new materials, the best materials that we originally shared with the people, have gone to military projects for special underground things that only, the people with money can utilize. And maybe it's just in my head that way, but it really seems that there was an exciting time from, say, the 40s to the 70s, where people were manufacturing things that they wanted people to be able to use, and use for a long time. That people took pride in the materials that they used. People took pride in the quality of their work. And we lost that along the way. And here we are today with garbage dumps full of shit, e-waste, computers that are designed to fall apart. And we know we can do better, right? I still use an old phone. I still use an old computer. I mean, as long as the things work, I'll continue to use them. But as a consumer society, we've really done ourselves in by, continuously wasting money on things that could be done better. So shame on us in one way. And in another way, maybe it's my method of saying, hey, if you want a new set of dishes or a new set of, cookware, maybe Goodwill would be a superior place to go than down to your local Bed Bath and Beyond. I don't think I've ever even been in one of those. Anyway, that's my message. Talk to y'all later. Thanks for listening. Go get your vintage gear and enjoy. I could go on about all the vintage stuff that I like, but I won't burden you with that.